Well, good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folare. It's the season. We're moving steadily towards the two-year mark of the Tinubu administration, which is going to be on the 29th of May. And everybody is talking about a midterm report in the first term of this administration. Our guest this morning is Dr. Daniel Bala, Special Advisor to the President on Media and Policy Communication. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Dr. Daniel Bala, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Our pleasure. Well, as I was saying, it's a very popular subject matter now, looking at the, performance review of the president. Well, maybe I'll come to an itemized series of questions, but by and large, generally speaking, would you say that the president, the president's administration, has lived up to expectation?
Yes, so good morning to your viewers as well. I think that President Bola Tinubu's administration has not just lived up to expectation, but to me, it has gone a little beyond expectation, given that this is not 4 years, but 2 years. And probably as we continue with the interview, I will roll out some of the achievements that the administration has done, but only because the president took tough decisions that placed Nigerians in a bit of hardship, albeit the results are getting evident every day.
Well, I suppose one of the most important aspects of our daily lives must be the economic reform of this administration. The economic reform, we've heard that it's an absolutely essential reform to take on, and there are many aspects to it. But it has also brought along economic hardships, hasn't it? How would you sort of speak to that particular aspect, whereas it's indispensable for us to go that route, but the economic hardships are what they are?
Yeah, to give a context to it, reform generally by its very nature is inconveniencing. That is why it is called reform. It means taking tough decisions. It means realigning processes. It means adjusting situation and scenario. It also means bringing about revival generated in any sphere of life, whether economic, security, in family. Once you use the concept of reform, it means that situation will not remain normal. It means that you're going to do some abnormal things. It means that people will have to tighten up. And so we were not illusional about the fact that when we introduced reform, we were well aware of what are going to be the antecedent, the concomitant effect of reform. Because when you say you are going to carry out a reform, it means that there will be a lot of inconveniences. And this reform sometimes takes place even in families. If, for example, the breadwinner, the father, suddenly loses his job or suddenly experience a reduction of salary, so to speak, or the financial stability of the family is affected, usually what the family will do is to adjust, to adjust their way of life, probably to determine the number of meals they will take, the quality of meals, probably reduce the number of trips, probably adjust even their expenditure life. So this is what the president had to do. He didn't do it because he wanted to do it. He did it because that was the only option on the table. If you recall that when the president came on board after May 29, in the activities building up to that, you couldn't even go into the bank and cash 10,000 naira of your money because there was a naira policy that was introduced. It created a very tough situation across the nation. There were states where people were protesting. You had to buy naira with naira from the POS people. That is one side of it. If you recall, from the insecurity point of view at the time, our soldiers were killed somewhere in Buhari. There were prison breaks everywhere in Nigeria. And in fact, the bandits and terrorists threatened that they were going to come to Villa and carry the president. In the FCT, for example, there were kidnappings in the daylight from the insecurity point of view. From the academic point of view, there were incessant strikes every now and then, and the situation was precarious. And then you have the middle class not being able to survive because of the precarious situation that we're confronted by. Need I say that we were borrowing our lives out, in fact, borrowing the future of our children, because that was the only thing we could do to sustain the situation. And even with the borrowing, we were not able to do that because 27 states of the Federation became bankrupt and could not pay salaries. Despite all entreaties, they said they were not able to pay salaries, not to talk about embarking on a project. So that was what the president saw and was confronted by. And he felt that to be able to make changes, that means we need to boost our revenue because we already have the problem with oil. You know, we did even crude for whatever. Now, he took that decision of removing subsidy because the subsidy, so to speak, was not affecting the Nigerian people robustly. He was bashed for taking that decision because, like I said when I began, it is going to create some inconveniences. But he assured the Nigerian people that with time, things are going to stabilize. He assured the Nigerian people that we are going to see some changes, and albeit positively in the life of the people. In other words, even though it's a reform we're carrying out, but it is not a reform that is going to last forever. It is not something that you will say you will see it in your lifetime. And what were the immediate results? As soon as he removed the subsidy and unified the exchange, immediately we started seeing revenues.
Okay.
And then these 27 states that could not pay salaries now had enough money to pay salaries. It has never been an issue. Now they even went ahead to begin to execute projects, and that's why the president has been busy going to different parts of the country commissioning projects.
You know, and of course, one thing leads to another. As you were saying, the president himself has said it, that we simply have no options apart from, as it were, biting the bullet on this, and these hardships won't last forever. But in the event, the removal of fuel subsidy and the unification of the Naira, but in particular, the removal of fuel subsidy, the price just shot up. The price of fuel shot right up, and there was a time when it was threatening to go over 1,000 Naira a litre. But sort of interestingly, that has begun to adjust. We began to see, you know, Dangote, for instance, has announced that there's going to be a further coming down of the price. And I think as of this morning, depending on where you are in the country, people are buying fuel at 880 Naira per litre, and it might vary from place to place. This is as the president had predicted when he was sort of assuaging our pain that he himself felt. He knew there was no option to it. But it's interesting that the price is coming down. It's just that in the Nigeria that we are today, even 880 Naira, whereas those who buy fuel on a daily basis will know that something has happened, it has come down. It still is very high, and this has affected transportation, which in turn has led your administration to begin to look at alternatives. So we're hearing of gas and electricity, perhaps. Speak to that area of some of the measures that this administration is taking to assuage the very dire situation.
So usually when you remove fuel subsidy, what it means is that you are now going to allow the market forces to act. And in the action of the market forces, it is going to be based on demand and supply. And then the consumer, they are the king in the given scenario. So if, for example, you are a seller of a product and you think you will take advantage of the people, less people will patronize you. And then there will be competition in the market because somebody will come up with a less value in terms of Naira for the product, same product that you are selling. And when they gravitate towards him, you are going to be forced to also have to come down. And this type of market forces activities will take time. But after a while, it will balance. I think that's what they say is the basic principles of economics. But the other side to it is, the flip side to the rising cost of fuel price, for example, is that we have bad roads all over Nigeria. Removal of subsidy enabled us to have resources now to invest in ensuring that we have good roads, which will boost our trade and also give employment. For example, if you look at the coastal lines, you look at where we're doing some of this infrastructure, it's going to certainly boost trade and trading activities. And it's going to create jobs because people are going to be employed to work. The value chain will be that some people are employed to work, other people are selling product, other people are supplying, and it is part of part of economics. Now, in terms of the value of fuel, or even, I will bring it probably in the course of our conversation, I will talk about even the prices of food items.
Okay.
You know, that keeps going up
and inflation.
and coming down and going up and coming down. Some of the, and inflation. Inflation, the report in April showed that the inflation came down by a point. So these are realities. These are realities. And we are well aware, as citizens of the country, that there are certain indices and effects in our economic lives that are artificial. So, for example, some of the causes of the rising cost of food items are not natural. Individuals who feel they are going to work against the government will buy large, volume of food items, hold it, and ensure that it is not in the market so that the prices of items will go up. Then they will come back and then begin to sell at a higher price. We have seen that, in fact, at a point, law enforcement started, arresting some of these individuals, that you have a large volume and then you keep it and holding it. But we know that if it is based on organic economic activities, certainly even the World Bank attested to the fact that we have been able to give a modest growth to the economy. Now, this, the effect of this policy decision of the president, for example, has brought about resources that we're able to reinvest in NEL Fund. Now you have over 350,000 students who have benefited from the NEL Fund. That members, people who come from families that are indigent, will be able to fund their education, where tuition fees are paid, and then the cost of living. If you allow me, I will then run them down. For example, we talked about fuel subsidy. We talked about the doubling of our revenue. We talked about debt service reduction, reduced by from 97% to 68%. Foreign exchange reserve, when we took it, it was 33 billion. Now it's over 40 billion. And we have that money. We're reducing debt services. We're investing in infrastructure, and we keep going on and on. If you come to the inflation, I told you we had a reduction. And then we have the direct foreign investment. It increased by 7%. The tax reform bill we have introduced is going to positively affect the middle class and small and medium scale enterprises. People who work and earn below certain threshold will not have to pay tax. Some of the details are there. It has expanded the tax net and created opportunities for the Nigerian people. What about consumer credit scheme, which was introduced last year? Now, people can access credit, and it is the hope of this administration that 50% of the working class, will be able to benefit from that credit scheme by 2030. In the area of infrastructure, I told you earlier, I said we have the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. We have been able to enhance the operation of the railway, and we reduce travel time. The Abuja-Kaduna Highway will cost a massive upgrade there. If you look at Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, over 700-kilometer coastal highway, activities there that has created jobs, and then it's going to affect us positively. There is also the upgrade of standardization of our airport. If you come to the energy sector, we talk about the oil and gas revival, refinery operations. For the first time after a long while, we're able to get 2 refineries up and running. We have the Decade of Gas Initiative. We have the Sustainable Energy Access Project, which was launched. If you come to the social welfare, I talked about the NEL Fund, but NEL Fund is not the only area where there are social welfare. So many interventions of government affecting the ordinary Nigerians who are affected by the increase of food products or petroleum products because we reduce fuel subsidy. So in this area, you are impacted negatively, but the resources that we generate, we're able to come back to your life in other areas that you can see the benefit. How about the rice subsidy program? All over the states of the federation, people are benefiting.
Yes,
we have the minimum wage. This administration was able to achieve minimum wage, which has increased.
Dr. Bala, right, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You will definitely touch on those areas, but could I just come in with the administration projected a modest economic growth of 4.17%, and economists say that this is hardly enough to mitigate the challenges that have been brought about by some of the other things that have to be done, even as the administration forges on. But you see, this growth I don't know. There are all sorts of things. There's the exchange rate component of it, and then this projection of 4.17%. It's not really enough. But is it that it was expected, and that we can hope that it will get better? Because perhaps it getting better will depend on Nigeria becoming productive and actually beginning to, export and
yes,
create value.
Yes. Yes, we accept, I won't even say the verdict, but the opinion of the World Bank when they say we will have to increase the growth by up to 5% in order to meet with the $1 trillion economy by 2030. Government is about projection, and that's what the whole essence of economy is about: projection. You project, and then you work towards achieving it. In the course of doing it, if you have problem, you're able to correct them, because government is not perfect. Government can never be perfect. So, for example, like you rightly put out, in order to steer that kind of speedy growth of the economy, we have to be able to affect the means of production. If you look at government effort in, for example, providing access to loans for small and medium enterprises, it gets towards that, because you will stimulate the economy when the middle class are very active in the economy. Even the investment of the president in critical areas of the economy that create production, for example, the consumer, the credit. When you give credit to Nigerians, they're able to invest in business, and then you stimulate the economy. This administration is actually looking into any and every area possible to stimulate the economy or to push the economy. But you have to, we are not oblivious of the fact of where we are and the deficiency that we have on ground. If you see nations of the world that are able to get that kind of speed in their economic development, there are nations that have, for example, stable power supply, nations that have infrastructure to a level where you will say it is considerable, and economies that also have a means of production to a large extent in all the places. When this administration, when President Bola Tinubu took the oath of office, these things are not there. So we are pushing the envelope, and even if our speed is not commensurate to the expectation of the World Bank, but they have acknowledged one fact, that we have been able to create a modest growth, which means that we are not where we were, even though we are not where we're expected to be. So the progress is being made, and government will look into areas it needs to, for example, work hard and ensure that the growth is faster than the way it is at the moment. Okay. It is, we are not adversarial to reports, we are not adversarial to opinions, but we also have our facts when opinions are offered to give as to the reason why the speed is not commensurate to the expectation. But the Nigerian people can see the effort of government, and I believe it's a matter of time when things will begin to stabilize and it will be over.
There are difficulties in providing perhaps an adequate social safety net, as it is called. And you've been talking about aspects of this. And I know that there's a competition for very, very important needs that would impact directly the ordinary citizenry. And this is a challenge. But Nigerians are simply grappling with this problem, and I suppose employment is a part of it. The president did promise, even in his campaign, in coming to office, that these would be addressed. Things like that, employment would be addressed. But again, the president doesn't have control of the global economy, and this perhaps has been a bit difficult. Nigeria Labour Congress, they are up in arms. They are complaining, as labor congresses are all over the world. This whole matter of they would like a boost in employment level in Nigeria. How difficult has this been?
There are 2 or 3 factors that affect employment. But we must see that no nation of the world succeeds by everybody being employed to public service. Actually, because we are practicing a mixture of capitalism and a bit of socialism, we know that in a capitalist economy, the employment is largely done by the private sector. Because
right.
everybody can be in government. In fact, you do your best to shrink the government so that there will be private sector participation in the economy. They are the true drivers of the economy. So when the president promised employment, for example, he's not looking to employ people in public service. But what he meant is that the economy will be stimulated to a point where everybody will want to participate in the economy. And participation in the economy is what creates the jobs. So take, for example, if Mr. Abdul Karim access the credit and Mr. Abdul Karim invests the money in business, he will probably need to employ 1, 2, or 3 people to even begin the business. He will need somebody like an accountant. He will probably need a salesperson, or he will need an admin officer. So Mr. Abdul Karim, even at kickoff, has 3 people employed. And then you multiply Mr. Abdul Karim by the number of citizens that are able to access the credit. 1. 2, if you make goods and services workable, then that means there are people who already have the capital. All they want is a working environment so they can invest in the economy. If they invest in that economy, it will create jobs. Take, for example, the coastal project that we have in the road. From when it began, look at the employment that was generated as a result of that. The engineers will be employed and they will need people. Side people will need people. Labor. If you look at the value chain, you will see that a lot of people are going to be employed in that. When you look at our investment, for example, in area of technology, and that is what we are looking at. We are looking to have a breakthrough in IT in the country. American society today is sustained by the IT service industry, where you have, if you take Twitter, Facebook, probably you gather 5, 6 of them, you have more than a certain percentage of the American people under employment. So that's what the president is looking at, creating an enabling environment for private participation in the economy so that this private sector will recruit more people. That's the one component of employment that I talked about, right? The second one is capacity. Nobody employs as Father Christmas. Problem solvers will certainly find jobs. So the president also introduced policy that will boost the competency and capacity of people so that you become employable. If you look at some of these schemes that are introduced by the government, acquisition of skills, going through schools, ensuring that you have good education, modules are introduced so that when people come out of school or they come out of any form of training, they have the competence and the capacity to be employed into the sector that they seek to work under. And then the third one is we have to ensure that the private sector, the bank, money services bank, they also make sure that monies are available for customers to access credit. This is an area that the government is looking at very deeply. If you look around the world, that is where people access funds for people who want to do business. So not everybody is doing business. Some people work with government. Some people work in the service sector. Yeah. There are people who secure jobs even in the entertainment. And then you look at area of Nollywood or music industry. We want a creation of a stimulating factor in the economy where everywhere people can get jobs and people can achieve their dreams and goals in life. That is what the president is focused on. So when he talks about employment, he's not talking about people coming to public service. He's talking about the economy working to a point where there will always be job for anybody who has the skill for it.
Okay. At this stage, let me just take my first caller this morning. Mr. George, calling in from Lagos. Thank you for calling. Go ahead,
Good
please.
morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning to Dr. Bala. Uncle Yori, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Dr. Bala, I'm saying good morning to you with grudges.
Thank you.
Grudges because I'm personally not satisfied with the way you and your colleagues are doing the work the president gave you to do. There is gross inadequacy in the publicity of what this government is doing. It is only when the president speaks personally that some details get to us that we are supposed to hear from you and your colleagues. I'm a very close monitor of what's going on in my country. I noticed that Reno Omokri, who is not an appointee of the president, what he gives to the public about the performance and the governance of Mr. President is better than three of you put together, what you are telling us. Three of you, the president has three spokesmen. But what Reno Mokri tells the public about what is the facts and figures about what is going on, his own, to me, is more than what we hear from the three of you put together. People are talking about hardship, Dr. Bala. I am aware that prices are coming down. What it was in December, January is not what it is again. I bought a tuber of yam, 8,000 naira in January. That same tuber of yam today is between 2,500 and 3,000 naira. People are not aware of that. The time it was 8,000 naira is what the opposition members are still carrying around. It is people like you that can help. Cooking gas, for example, is now 900 naira per kg. It was 1,200 naira.
12.5 kg.
Yeah, no, 1 kg, 900 naira.
Oh, 900 naira, okay.
Yes, but I bought it in February for 1,200. People are not aware of these things. They need details. What is wrong, sir? If you do a daily press briefing, that's what they do in the U.S. And
all right, let's give Dr. Bala a chance to respond. Okay, Mr. George, thank you very much for calling in.
Right, thank you. In response to the caller, I would only say two things. I am personally aware of people who come on the media in this type of phoning to push agenda for certain individuals. We have in the past had to confront this, where people come solely to push agenda for someone. We don't give room for that nonsense.
Dr. Bala, I beg your pardon, sir.
Let me finish. You see,
you just said that you don't take an adversarial role on critical, comments. You said you don't. That is as an administration.
If you allow me, when I finish, you can always have your feedback or even correction. But allow me to land so that my flow of thought is not affected. The caller who called, he talked about an individual. He said that does work for more than the three of us. Have you seen that individual in television? He speaks through social media. Do you think the whole of Nigeria only stay in Twitter? Secondly, does he go to the street where we go and talk about these things? And number three, if he does not know the value of items, Nigerians who go to the market, they know the value. And we have been disseminating this information in various channels. And I challenge him to come out with any contrary information in terms of the value of items and the prices of items coming down. The federal government does not fix a price on the food of items. The prices of food items are affected by market forces. In other words, the price of tubers of yam in Lagos might be different from Kano. We have been communicating to the Nigerian people in the areas. Even last week, the Minister of Information had in his ministerial briefing, he spoke about the inflation reduction and the prices of items. What is he saying? If somebody sent him to TV to talk, let him disclose that fact. But if he's talking very honestly on communication, let me even say this. On an average in a week, I am in 5 different platforms talking about government program. What is he saying? He said we are nowhere communicating the program of government. Okay. You can call in to give suggestion. You can call in to express yourself, but you are not entitled to the facts. We too have facts to counter what you're saying. I am tired of this type of agenda-based something.
Okay, Dr. Bala, well, thank you very much. What I was just going to say is that you yourself had said that this administration doesn't take an adversarial view of people who have a totally different point of view. And it did seem that you were a bit angry there. You actually referred to something.
Yes, I am. I am angry because
all this nonsense.
I am angry because he was personal. He mentioned my name. He mentioned our names. He said he's disappointed in us, and he lied that we're not doing what we're doing. If he said he's concerned that he doesn't have enough information, that's fair enough. But when you impugn on my character, I have a constitutional right to reply to it. Especially when I know that some of these things are agenda-based.
All right, then. We'll cool down a bit. Dr. Bala, I'll take a quick break now, cool things down a bit, and I'll come back and we'll continue this conversation. I'd like to speak. I'd like you to speak when we come back on a very, very important aspect, and that is electricity, supply, especially as that sector is now talking about a cost-reflective tariff. It's going up again, and without electricity, we all know that business is going to be well nigh impossible. All of that when we come back. Do please stay with us. Okay, welcome back if we've been together, or indeed thank you for coming on board if you're just joining us. Our guest is Dr. Daniel Bala, Special Advisor to the President on Media and Policy Communication. Thank you very much, Dr. Bala, for being here today. Now, I spoke about the electricity sector just before we went, because it looks like, well, Nigerians, they still have to tighten their belts a bit, because suddenly we are now, that is another area of subsidy that people have gotten used to. People don't like paying, but that which they have considered almost free, now we are being told that, wait a minute, cost-reflective tariffs are going to have to come on board. I was listening to the managing director of the disco over the weekend, and and I was hearing that it's a very tough situation for them, but at the end of the day, they get blamed because they cannot distribute what they do not have. But they seem to be the people that everybody sees. They were not being distributed to, and they complain that, well, what do you want us to do if we don't get enough from the transmission company? What do we do? So these are areas that Nigerians are sort of prepared. We've been prepped now that we're coming to the electricity sector, and it's unavoidable, isn't it? This is going to add to the shall we say, the load that Nigerians have to bear, with good reason. But this is it. It's like not yet Uhuru.
Yes, and they have been communicating to the Nigerian people on their programs, their objective, and if they have difficulties, they also communicate the difficulty. I know that the Minister of Power in the last ministerial briefing talked to Nigerians extensively on the Ministry of Power, what the expectations are, and what are the challenges. So probably they will get it fixed. Okay.
Okay. I have another caller. Good morning. Who is on the line?
Okay, my name is Canis.
Okay, Mr. Canis, please go ahead.
Okay, I want to appreciate Daniel on your studio. He's spoken so well so far. But one thing I find not actually correct, or what they do that I feel it is not correct, is this. They are always very quick to take the glory of whatever administration that handed over to the current one, but they will somehow find a way to dodge away from the liabilities. Like Daniel is somebody that I've followed for quite a long time now, before he ported and now came back. Before sometimes I hardly try to watch him, unlike before. But like he was the person when he was marketing for the same government that handed over to the one he's working for now. He has the history of what transpired from 2015 to date. So when he comes to the studio and say the government, the previous government handed over to the one he's working for now, and the economy was so bad, but not putting it in context that, okay, even the time before the one that took over, there were issues. The pandemic was a major blow to major countries in the world. Nigeria is not an exception. It costs a lot of havoc to the economy of this country. These were these that made the economic went back up to date. Then easily saying that the 24 countries, 24 states were unable to pay salaries and all, which actually the same thing happened in the previous government when they gave them some bailout and all of that. And many governors were commissioning projects. What they rather do, they prefer commissioning projects than paying salaries. Not as if they were not having the monies to pay salaries, because if they pay salaries, the monies that will go into their pocket will not come. So they would rather prefer to do projects and commission those projects while the workers suffer in terms of payment.
Forgive me for butting in. Forgive me for butting in, but that was then. And, you know, for whatever, you know, the way it is. But this is now. And what Dr. Bala is saying...
Yes, I'm only trying to put it into perspective. That
Indeed.
Yes, while he's trying to either paint the government he's working for now, because it is not ABC or SDP that handed over to the current president. It was the same APC that handed over to the same APC. So
I think I get the point that you're making. Let's Dr. Bala respond to that. Okay.
Well, yeah, fair comment from the caller. But my response is that I was asked the question to analyze the government of President Bola Tinubu. So I didn't need to travel back to analyzing the government that he took over from. And when I talked about context, I was talking about what he was confronted by when he came on board and why he had to take the decision he took. So if you are expecting me in giving the context on which the president took those decisions, that I should have probably gone back to give also excuses for the previous decision government and give excuses for another government, I may run foul of answering the specific question asked to me by the uncle, which is to assess President Bola Tinubu's performance vis-a-vis the decision he has taken. So that's the reason in conversation you stay on the question.
Okay, exactly. But
and then allow me, Mr. Yori, to also say something. This last caller, you can see he was fair in his question, even though he disagreed. But we accept it because it is fair-minded person.
Okay.
The previous one that asked, his name is George. Mr. Yori, he is he's a customer to your program. And anytime he comes to your program, watch the question. I can pull back and send to you more than 5 of the times he came on the program. Specific agenda he's pushing for certain individuals. There are people he doesn't mention their name. And he has that penchant. It's important that Nigerian people know why we reacted to him. Because, and I also expect, Dr. Yori, that you find him and caution him so that if he has an issue with anybody, let him come out and talk about the issue. But don't hide under this program to be pushing an agenda. You would always know when Nigerians ask their fair-minded question, even when they disagree with government, but when it is not backed up by agenda. But this person, he has been in your program every day, and every time he comes on the program, he attacks the personality of individual. That was why I reacted to him, because I was not appointed to sell ice cream.
All right, then. I intentionally, let you have your complete say, lest you think that there is anything untoward going on. It is not for me to defend that particular caller. You did refer to him as what you did, a customer, meaning that he's a quite frequent caller. There are quite a bunch of people who are quite frequent on our program. And he has always been, a supporter and to some extent a critic of the administration when need be. But enough of that. I'm not going to go beyond that by way of defending him. And when you were speaking about, looking for excuses, I didn't think you were going to come here and give any excuses. It's the reasons. People want reasons for things, and I think that is what you are busy doing. So thank you very much for that. Not really giving excuses, but giving us reasons for where we are. And I agree with you entirely. We are having this conversation within the limits of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's, midterm report. Okay. Moving forward, President Tinubu has shown that he's not someone who is just going to sit back and be wringing his hands when things are the way they are. We're talking about power, for instance, electricity power. I think recently the administration has made some great strides in alternative powers. I was talking about the discos having their problems, maybe Gencos, transmission companies and discos, but solar is one alternative. In fact, recently we heard that State House itself was being sort of solarized is the word. It's not the word, but you get what I mean. So it's like you're exploring all sorts of options. There's gas, there's solar, and so much so that I think even the World Bank has commented and commended the administration for going in that direction. But the prices of these things are probably going to have to come down a bit, perhaps.
Yeah, with time. Probably commercial activities like that, where something comes new into the market because it's the only product in the market, it might be expensive. Where more investors come into the market with the same product, probably with a reduced price. That's the word we talk about, competition. The prices will start going down, and before you know, it goes down. Before the oil prices, before Dangote came on the stream, we had a bit of problem in terms of the pricing. When Dangote came, there is a competition in the market. If you look at the cement, you look at rice, almost every product, even the rice we're talking about, once there are more investors in the market, then the market forces will take its course. And before you know, the prices of items will come. Alternative energy is a new thing. Anywhere in the world, people go to alternative energy because some migrate to alternative energy in order to reduce emission of the greenhouse gases. Some migrate to alternative energy because it is cost effective. Some migrate to alternative energy because they discover it. So there are cities you go to, it is almost near zero in terms of energy that is derived from fuel, from diesel and the rest, but they go into solar. So, and with Aso Villa going solar, I mean, it's a new concept and it's a new thing, especially because Aso Villa looked at the cost of energy in Paripa, when you rank it in Paripa, so with the solar. And we are talking about reducing the cost of governance. So I actually thought that Nigerians would clap their hands that federal government is exploring this option. Private individuals are also expected to explore the options.
Indeed. Okay. I have a caller. I have another caller. Could you tell me what your name is, please? Who is waiting to come on the program?
Good morning. My name is Ibrahim.
Ibrahim, good morning to you, sir. Go right ahead.
Yes. I want to welcome your guest to the program, and normally whatever he will have said, I think that is what is expected of him to a kind of advertise the government and to show, tell the public what are the achievements. But what areas that are of concern to us is that we are in the past have seen a kind of things that are similar to what is happening now. As at that time, it was called structuring. During the military era. And at the end of the day, it puts Nigeria into even bringing us to the level we are now. Ordinarily, I would have believed that it is too early to even start measuring the performance of the government. Particularly, it is just if you are doing a reform.
A sort of a midterm report.
At this point, Nigerians are in pain. Nigerians are suffering. Nigerians are saying that what is our expectation in the nearest time? Are we going to continue like this, where the health service, the educational service, the light we are talking about, and every other things are far within the reach of the poor people? So how are we going to do it?
All right. Thank you very much for calling in, Ibrahim. Appreciate your call. But the whole point of Dr. Bala and his colleagues speaking to the public is following from, the president's admonition that, look, let people know where we are. Let people know what we are doing. People perhaps don't know enough. And I think all of them have taken up that particular challenge. And that's why you have Dr. Bala here, among other people, sort of highlighting, publicizing the efforts. They might not be complete yet, but we might not have reached a stage of completion, but let us know what is being done. Dr. Bala, over to you.
Yeah. So, for example, with respect to the common man, one is that at every given time you are expected to, even if the masses do not assess your performance, you are expected to reappraise what you're doing. That's why the president ordered the ministers from time to time to engage the Nigerian people on the key performance indicators. It's part of communicating. And I'm sure that my sister, Hadiza Bala, has at one time communicated to the people to access through their various apps or through the website to see part-time the performance of ministers in critical areas of the economy. I also know, for example, with respect to NEL Fund, which affects the common man, poor man suffering, is the provision of funds to fund the studies of that person. And the communication in that regard is being made in all the platforms every day. With respect to the policy of the president in the area of food production, food services, inflation, and the rest, communication is being made by us on a daily basis. We use all available platforms. We use social media, we use the legacy media, the mainstream, we use our own visit. We do town halls. We go to street and hold meetings with people. We get feedback from the Nigerian people because that's government is, okay, as we are talking today, if I ask the caller, which country is the strongest economy in the world, I'm sure he will agree that it is the United States of America. If you tune into any of the TV stations of America right now, you will see that the citizens are complaining that the services of the government is not enough. So everywhere, people will express their expectations and their desire, and we welcome that. But our point is that we are given facts and figures about what we are doing. I am saying even at this midterm, we have massive success in this administration of President Bola Tinubu, and I talked about them in the area of the netfall. I talked about agriculture. I talked about the standardization of airport, the construction of road, the upgrade of roads, the coastal highway. We talked about local government autonomy is the devolution of power and resources to the state and to the local government.
Let's talk about security. Let's talk about. Thank you, sir. Let's talk about security as well. That's another concern because it links to everything that you've been saying before. It is only in peace that you can get progress and development.
Right. So, for example, the local government autonomy that I talked about, what was it set out to achieve, or what is the intent and the purpose of local government autonomy? It is to deal with the root causes of insecurity. Where are the places where we have insecurity in Nigeria? They are in the localities, in local government, and in state. But largely across local government in Nigeria, especially when you talk about, whether you talk about banditry, whether you talked about the terrorists, they don't come to towns like Abuja. They hardly come to the capitals of state. They strike and operate in those local levels. So local government autonomy that was introduced, which brought about resources to the local government, can aid the state to create a vigilante in every local government in Nigeria, can aid the state in providing weapons, arms, and logistics to people who act as vigilante, who, one, will serve as frontline guards, and two, they will serve as collectors of intelligence for law enforcement. That same local government autonomy would have devolved finances to the local government, where the local government chairman, for example, will help in boosting dispensary for people to access health, mother care, childbirth, chieftaincy matters. Local government people are being paid, creating economic activities in the local level. Because these guys come and recruit the people at the local level because of the abject poverty in those places. Take, for example, where I come from, in Borno, with the Boko Haram. They come to these villages and give them stipends, small money, to be giving the information about armed forces, the soldiers, and the operation of law enforcement. Okay. Now, with local government autonomy, assuming there is a local government chairman who has enough funds to create economic activities in those places, you discover that the Nigerian people who are suffering in those places will have more confidence in government, and they will rather put their allegiance to government and give information to the government than succumbing to the whims and caprices of the insurgent. And that's why President Bola Tinubu has been urging the governors, not commanding, but urging the governors to also trickle down the deliverables of this good governance that has brought resources to their state in dealing with insecurity. Because the foundation of the country either survives or dies on security or insecurity.
Okay, Dr. Bala, there's so very much more to talk about, and that's to be expected because there's so very much that is being done. But then you are going to be taking up on many other programs, I imagine, even on our station and other stations, and so people will see the efforts or get to learn about the efforts of the Tinubu administration. So I want to thank you for coming in. Our time has run out. But as I said, you have opportunities on some of our other programs and on other channels to explain a bit more about the efforts of the Tinubu administration. So I want to thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you.
And speaking with us. Okay.
Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
So we're going to have to leave it there for now. Do please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Iyori Folare. Bye-bye for now.